Hi, Lisa. Could you please make me and Tom become co-host of this event, please? Hi, Julia.
Hi, Peter. Sure. I will appoint you as the co-host. No problem.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much, Julia. Yeah.
Okay, it should be okay now.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I want to be mindful of the time. I know it's
计划开始说是8月中旬，但这个是因为疫情的网。
Yeah, hi, Mindy. This is Julie. Yeah, hi.
How are you? I wasn't sure if I was like just hosting this entire presentation or if there was someone else.
Okay, so I will appoint you as the co-host firstly, so that you will be able to share the screen.
Okay, perfect. That will be wonderful.
Okay. So hi, Peter and Vince. So do you think we can start, or we may need Mindy to wait 2 more minutes?
We should wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Hello, it's Tom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
It's nice to see you again.
Yes, I heard right from the students that are emailing me that it's gotten a little worse in Vietnam. So I hope everyone is okay. I know some students were still trying to get like visa appointments and even the concern with COVID happening and vaccinations and everything. So hopefully everyone is doing okay on this call, you know, and all my friends in Vietnam. So
Yeah, thank you. The situation is kind of bad, but we are trying our best to overcome that.
gotcha. Yeah. And even here too, I think with the Delta variant, I think a lot of people are also concerned as well too. But I think also, I think in the US, it's always like there's different opinions in terms of, oh, should we go back to being masked up or if we should, you know, continue working. We actually just started going back to the office today. And so, yeah, I think everyone is still adjusting. It's been what, 16 months since I'm working from home. So I think it's quite an adjustment for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It just bugged me that the U.S. consulate cannot, well, let the student comes in and make the appointment for a visa interview at the moment. So yeah, it makes some student have to change their agenda, have to change their schedule. So
Yeah.
that's quite bugged up, but it's okay.
Yeah, and actually, we were thinking about scheduling something with Education USA in Vietnam, but it was just bad timing, especially this month. So, and also just knowing students from Vietnam always apply early, so it's just a really awkward time in terms of, you know, getting the information out and then also being mindful of the entire situation. So,
Yeah.
awesome. Just let me know whenever you guys want me to start. I know you guys are super busy, so I just hate to take up your time if you guys also have
Sure.
other on your agenda?
Yeah, I think we can start now. I think we can start now because
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. We have a really good show of folks here, which is wonderful. And feel free to correct me if you know, we also have friends from other territories. I'm most likely speaking from the perspective of Vietnam, but if there's any other country I should address in this presentation, feel free to let me know. That way I want to make sure that I address all the questions and everything. So let me try to get this on presentation.
Today we have not only agents in Vietnam, but also agents from Taiwan.
Oh, okay. So Thailand and Vietnam then. Okay,
Sorry,
wonderful.
Taiwan.
Oh, Taiwan?
Taiwan.
Okay, Taiwan and Vietnam. Okay, wonderful. And then one more question. Are all these agents, this is the first time they're attending this meeting, right? They haven't done the one I did before, right?
I beg your pardon?
I wasn't sure if these agents, if this is the first time hearing this presentation or if this is like their second time. I know I did a training before, so I wasn't sure how many of those heard that one.
Most of us, this is the first time for most of us.
Okay, wonderful. That's good. So that way, I hope I don't bore anyone if this is their second time listening to this presentation. So,
Yeah, no worry.
Wonderful. Well, I will go ahead and get started. And also, like anytime, I know I will see some of the chat as they come in, but in case I don't get, you know, if I don't look at the chat at the same time and you have a question, feel free to like unmute yourself, or we will have a Q&A session at the very end. So for anyone who has questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent at the very beginning of the presentation, but just to introduce myself. So hello, everyone. My name is Mindy Yu. I'm the Associate Director for International Enrollment at Miami University. I've been with Miami for close to 10 years now. And in the past, ever since we started recruiting in Vietnam, it was even before I started at Miami back in 2011, we've never utilized agent partnerships before. It was actually in this last 2 years that we started working with agents in different countries. So certainly it's an experience for Miami, working with different partners. And I think one thing great about working with Can Achieve is that everyone's so open to communication. And I also want to let you know is that I am a contact as well. If you ever have any questions, you're working with any students that have questions, please feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to help you out. If there's anything urgent or anything I could do within my power to help you out on your side of the desk, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll also leave my email at the end of the presentation. So if you have more questions, just let me know. So, and I know for all of you, you are working with a lot of students, a lot of different schools. And so, after a while, everything blends together. So hopefully today, just for you to learn a little bit more about Miami University, as well as our application procedures, what makes Miami special, because I am sure that when you are working with students, that is also an important factor for them to consider. So first off, just to kind of give you a sense, I don't know how many of you have been to the Midwest. So we are located in Oxford, Ohio. And so we are in the southwestern part of the state of Ohio, and it's actually in this really interesting area. It's called a tri-state area. So if you drive, let's say you fly into Cincinnati, which is where a majority of the international students fly into. If you just drive like maybe 10-15 minutes down south, well, the airport you fly into is already in Kentucky. So you will actually get to experience Kentucky, as well as if you go further up towards Oxford, where Miami University is located. And if you go more towards the west, you're going to hit Indiana. So it's very easy to travel within this tri-state area. So it's a very unique area for students to be in, because a lot of students actually, for example, drive to Chicago for the weekend. And I know in the US, we measure everything by how many hours it takes to get to a certain place versus, I know I remember when I was traveling in East Asia and, doing different high school visits and everything. And every time I asked the driver, oh, how long will it be before I get to, a certain high school? And they usually say, X number of kilometers, which in my head probably doesn't mean much in terms of, okay, I don't know how many minutes I'll be in terms of getting to the high school. So, but for where we are located in Oxford, Ohio, you're really within an hour to Cincinnati. And then if you drive, let's say 5 hours to Chicago, and then another 2 hours to Indianapolis. So it's really a good place for students if they want to get out of campus. So it's not just, students come to Miami and they're only stuck in Oxford, Ohio. If students have internships in other places, it's certainly reachable for them. So they could still get to other places with our location. And then also in terms of the climate, I know that's also important. Some students are like, I'd rather go to California because it's always nice and hot there, and I don't like snow. Or, other students are interested in winter sports, so they want to go somewhere cold for school. But one thing great about Ohio is that we have all 4 seasons. So when students come in the fall, it's actually really nice. Weather's not too hot, not too cold, and especially from, for students coming from Vietnam and Taiwan, at least it's refreshing knowing that it's not like super hot. And also we do have winter. So, and I usually tell students to buy their winter coats once they're here, because most international students come with like 2 suitcases. And nowadays, a lot of parents actually come with them as well. Parents are more than welcome to come with their students to help move them in on campus. And then also, once winter season passes, we have a nice spring season. So that's when students usually finish their second semester. And summer, if you have students who want to take a summer term, they're more than welcome to, but normally they either go home or they do an internship off campus, or they do research on campus. So there's different possibilities for students depending on what their target is. And just to kind of give you a sense in terms of the school size is that one big selling point for Miami University is that we are a mid-sized school. So not too big, not too small. You really have all the opportunities of a big school, yet you retain the community of a small one. And I think a lot of students find that appealing, knowing that if they really want that community, they will find that at Miami University. And then also, I know some students will ask you, where did Miami University get its name? We were actually named after the Miami Native Americans. So they once inhabited that land. And so after they left in 1809, we established Miami University. And it is one of the premier public universities in the state of Ohio. So for a lot of public institutions in the state of Ohio, usually other schools benchmark against Ohio State and Miami University just because of the high caliber of academics that are offered at these 2 institutions. But in terms of majors, we do have over 120 different majors that students could choose from. And students could
Hi, Mindy.
Yes.
I'm sorry for disturbing. It seems that we cannot see the full screen. So I think maybe you can try to reduce the PPT in scale.
But you cannot see the full screen, you said?
Yes, we cannot see.
Yeah, it seems like it's zoomed. It seems like it's zoomed up. We just can see in the center of your screen, and everything just like zoomed up.
Oh, really? Okay, let me try this then. Let's see.
Yeah,
This is
it is okay now. Yeah, thank you.
okay. This isn't presenter view, but if you guys see this better, then I'm more than happy just to keep it like this. If so, everyone could see. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right, we'll do it this way then. So anyways, back to the different majors, students could certainly choose between all the different majors that we have. They could double major, they could do a major and a minor. A lot of our Vietnamese students actually choose to do a double major. Some of them are a little ambitious. I try to talk them out of this sometimes if they want to triple major. Usually I would be like, if you want to do a double major, maybe switch the other one to a minor. In my entire time at Miami University, I think I've only seen one Fulbright scholar who graduated with 3 degrees all at once in 4 years. So just something to consider. I know our students from Vietnam are very ambitious, and also our students from Taiwan as well too. So just kind of throwing that out there as you are working with students. And then also in terms of sports. So sports, as you probably know, is a major component at a lot of US universities. And for us, even though, yes, we are a Division I school, which is actually the cream of the crop in terms of the different athletic levels. And so for a lot of schools, football is the most popular sport. But for Miami, we actually excel in the ice sports. So hockey, figure ice skating, those are probably 2 of our strongest sports at Miami University. And just to kind of give you an example, we attract a lot of Canadians who will come down to play hockey for us. And so that's a big pool for Canada as well as Australia. We do get a lot of athletes from Australia, and then also different sports throughout Europe. The students from those countries would usually come to Miami to play sports. So sports we do really well in, especially in hockey. And I usually tell students when they are here to see at least one hockey game because they're really fun and it's just a great way to build school spirit as well. And then back to being a mid-sized school. So yes, we have 19,000 students. And just to kind of give you a comparison, like why Miami is a mid-sized school, the undergraduate institution I went to had 50,000 students. So if you compare like 50,000 students to maybe 19,000 students, it's actually not that big and not too small because some of the smaller, let's say liberal arts institutions have like 1,000 students in terms of enrollment. So we're just like right there in the middle. But a majority of those students are actually undergraduate students. We have a very small graduate student population just because Miami is actually focused more on the undergraduate education. And that is why we consistently rank in terms of our commitment to undergraduate teaching, is because we have a very small graduate student population. And even when students do research, those research opportunities that normally would go to graduate students at other institutions go directly to our undergraduate students. So a sophomore student at Miami is already doing research that a graduate student is doing at another peer institution. So I think that's the reason why it really helps in terms of helping students gain that experience before graduation. And then also in terms of students, we do have students from 91 different countries. And I will show you in the next slide what our top countries are. And we also have students from all 50 states in the US as well too. So when your students come to Miami, you know, they might be rooming with someone from, let's say, Oklahoma, or they might be rooming with someone from Brazil. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to really meet people from other countries and other states as well. And in terms of getting to know other people, we do have student organizations. So we do have 600 different student organizations that students could choose from. We do have a Vietnamese Student Association. For our students from Taiwan, They usually join an Asian Student Association. I don't think they have as large as a group compared to, let's say, our Chinese Student Association, our Indian Student Association, or our Vietnamese Student Association. So they usually form a smaller group themselves, or they join like the Asian Student Association. So different ways to meet people, but those are just some examples. Certainly students could play sports, they could join, I don't know, a K-pop group or something like that. So just a lot of ways for students to get involved on campus. So this next slide right here, I highlighted the different countries that are our top sending countries. And as you could see, I didn't put Taiwan on here because Taiwan is probably like in the 10th or 11th place. But in terms of our strongest ones, as you could probably guess, is China, Vietnam, and India. And the rest, Canada, South Korea, and Nepal, they're there, but nothing as strong as the numbers as China, Vietnam, and India. So, but we're definitely interested to continue to increase the number of students from other countries. So just because it doesn't, show on the slide in terms of top international countries of origin doesn't mean we don't have them. It's just that we have an entire list of different countries that will probably take up the entire slide if we try to put everything on there. This next slide right here is Vietnam at a glance. If I've known, I should have put Taiwan as well, but this is only Vietnam for now. And my Taiwan colleagues, if you have more questions about numbers later, just email me and I'll try to pull that together for you. But this kind of shows you in terms of the funnel for fall 2019 all the way to fall 2021. In terms of, normally how many apps we get. We did drop for fall 2021 just because COVID happened, or else there would have been a lot of potential. And you could also see the number of students enrolled from each year. And sometimes, like being in international admissions, things happen. For example, we were doing really well in Myanmar in terms of starting a pipeline there. But as you probably know from watching the news, everything that happened this past year kind of really put a stop to our recruitment efforts in that region. So, depending on world events and, different situations that come up, it could affect our numbers, our yearly numbers. So, as you can even see from right here between fall 2020 to fall 2021, there was that slight dip in applications just because COVID happened and we had to pivot extremely fast to remote recruiting. So that was certainly a hurdle for everyone to go through, but I think we pulled out really well at the end of it. So switching gears, just to kind of talk a little bit more again about the student experience, because that's certainly really important for students to understand, the type of university they're applying to, what do they offer. And certainly students could email me as well, but, I'm sure the students are asking you a lot of questions. So in terms of the living on campus, we are a residential campus. So not a suitcase campus where, students come on campus, take a couple classes and then go home for the day. They do have that entire living on campus experience, and they will get to meet the residents advisors where, like, if they have any issues with roommates or anything, they will be there to help them. But a majority of the students actually live on campus. Everywhere is walkable distance. You do not have to worry about getting a bike or car to get around. It'll probably take you 10-15 minutes to get from one place to another. And we also have the bus system that goes around if students are, let's say it's a really cold winter day and they want to, just hop on a bus to get closer to their classes. That's certainly a possibility as well. And in terms of food, that's certainly a very important factor as well. Miami has won over 50 different culinary awards for our food alone. So students really have a wide range of options from sandwiches, pizzas, stir fries. We also do have the uptown area where, if they want to grab a bubble tea or If they just want to, maybe grab another sandwich and meet up with friends, they could do that. And then in the uptown area, it's basically like our city center. And students could easily, if they want to open a bank account in the US, there are several banks there. So students could easily get to a financial institution if they want to start an account in the US, which I would recommend as well. Certainly some students choose to wire their tuition money. Others want to have a certain amount at a US bank and pay for their tuition that way. I would say not to let your students pay with a credit card because usually there is a processing fee. So, if students want to start a bank account or wire money, those are probably the best ways to do it. So, and then in terms of the room arrangements, usually it's 2 students to a room. And actually this year, from what I've seen, a lot of the Vietnamese students actually reach out to each other already. We usually start a WhatsApp group for our Emitted international students, and they will usually, talk to each other and kind of find roommates that way. If not, there's also random roommate selection if they want to do it that way, or if they want to live with an American roommate, they could certainly do that as well. So moving along, I know I mentioned at the beginning that Miami University is known for our commitment to undergraduate teaching. And if your students are really into the personal attention, really getting to know their professors, they like the smaller class sizes, then Miami would be a great fit for them. Miami is actually one of the original public Ivy League institutions. So a lot of students are familiar with the other brands like Yale, Harvard. Those are the private Ivy Leagues, but for a public Ivy League institution, you're really getting an Ivy League education at a public school cost. So I think that's a very appealing factor for a lot of our high ability students. So that's something I usually mention to students as they're thinking about the different schools that they're interested in. In terms of how we get to our position as a public Ivy, we wouldn't be able to do it without our engaged faculty members. They are really here because of the teaching mission. So these faculty members love working with students, and they really value that connection that they have with their students. Our class sizes are small. So as you could see from the presentation, the slide, it's a 17:1 student to faculty ratio. And then 80% of the faculty members are full-time faculty members. So you will hardly walk into a class where it's taught by a graduate assistant. And the average class size is about 30 students in a classroom. So we really try to keep it small so students feel comfortable in terms of engaging with their professors as well as their peers. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have engaged professors, but we also have engaged students as well. And a majority of the students actually complete at least another degree or a minor. And as I mentioned before, our Vietnamese students are very ambitious, so they tend to double major. And then nearly 100% of the students actually complete some form of field work before graduation. So they're really building their resume before they actually get out into the real world. So that's just something we really provide in terms of our education at Miami University. And then research, I alluded to this earlier, is that it's a very important component for Miami University students. They could start research right from day one. There's really no limitations as to when they want to start, or even if they want to do research in another area, they could certainly do that. I highly doubt the slide will show up correctly, but these are just some examples of the different companies that our students have interned with. And a lot of our students actually participate in our job fair. And a lot of employers come back to Miami University to recruit our students because what we've been hearing in terms of feedback from the employers is that they are really one of a kind in terms of how prepared they are. The students are really professional. They're ready to handle real life situations. So I think a lot of employers are really impressed by that fact. And that's the reason they keep coming back. Every recruitment fair that we have in the spring, they keep coming back just to recruit our students. Switching gears again to talking more about the academics, Miami does have 6 academic divisions, but I do want to note the last one, nursing, is currently not available for international students because their capacity is very small for each class. They are probably admitting at least maybe 40 students in a class just because students have to break off into clinicals. So maybe hopefully in the future, we will have that capability of admitting international students, but for now it's there, but it's just for your information. So just to kind of start off with the largest and oldest academic division is the College of Arts and Science. This division has everything from anthropology to zoology. For any of your students who are undecided, they can certainly start in the College of Arts and Science under University Studies. And then also for my colleagues here from Taiwan, English proficiency sometimes is what the trend that I've seen for students coming from Taiwan. And those students usually start in the ACE program, which I'll talk more about later. And the ACE program is actually in the College of Arts and Science. So I'll touch more about that, but that's traditionally what I've seen coming from students that are from Taiwan. So certainly there are students who meet the full admission requirement, but I do tend to notice the English proficiency component is certainly something that is a possibility right there. Next, we have the College of Creative Arts. This one, we have everything from architecture, music, graphic design, you name it. But one field that is really growing with our students from China and South Korea is esports. So we do have an esports program, and it's actually one of the most competitive esports program in the country. So there are different institutions that will offer it, and coming from Miami, you're not only getting the esports education, but also the liberal arts education as well. So that's something interesting that I've seen other students from different Asian countries be interested in. And then College of Education, Health and Society, for your students who are interested in social work, teacher education, kinesiology, nutrition, just to name a few, this will be the perfect academic division for them. It's a lot more for those students who really like to work with people, or one program that is really popular is called a SLAM program. It's called a Sports Leadership and Management program. It's a combination between the business school and the Education, Health and Society division. So it's unique because it really lets the student, get their feet wet if they're interested in the sports field. And they also get a little bit of the business management to go along with it. So just a program to, FYI, in case you have any students that are interested. College of Engineering and Computing, we certainly have all the basic engineering majors like chemical, mechanical, electrical, but a lot of international students choose computer science. Computer science is very popular among international students. And that's a program that is very strong and has a lot of opportunities as well. I do want to jump back to the College of Arts and Science. One growing field these days is data science. So if you have any students interested in working with data or thinking about the statistics major, then data science is actually very popular in these last couple of years. And I think a lot of employers are also looking for data scientists as well. So if your students are kind of thinking about that field, you could recommend data science. And then last division, the Farmer School of Business. This one is the most competitive and most popular academic division for our international students. So there are additional requirements that we look at when we're reviewing a student for the Farmer School of Business. But if a student is not able to be directly admitted into the Farmer School of Business, then we could offer them admission still, but if they want to be in the Farmer School of Business later, they do have to meet a requirement of at least a 3.5 GPA after their first year, take 30 credit hours, which is your entire first year, and take calculus and economics at Miami University. If they meet all those 3 requirements, then they're automatically a Farmer School of Business student the second year. Usually the first year, it's a little more difficult to get in, but there is a pathway into the Farmer School of Business. Jumping back to the College of Creative Arts, that one is more talent-based. So depending on the major, they would have to audition or submit a portfolio. And that's even for the majors that you have to audition for, there really isn't a pathway once you're denied into, let's say, music, because there is that talent component right there. So just like differences between the different academic divisions and how it works when students apply to those academic divisions. Because Miami University, we do attract a lot of high ability students. We do have a lot of students that are interested in our honors program. So first off, to start off with the Presidential Fellows Program, this one is our premier program. And every year we reserve at least 1 seat for an international student. And usually there's about 15 students in a cohort. And if you are selected to be a presidential fellow, your tuition is all paid for. Your housing is paid for. You get an additional $5,000 to do research. So it's a very competitive program. And you also have additional honors opportunities that are afforded to that student. Our very first international student that was a presidential fellow was actually from Vietnam, from Hanoi, Amsterdam. So she hailed from that school. So, and even now she's doing really well on campus, extremely high achieving. So the program does attract a lot of great students that come in. And I think this year, the recipient was a student from Nepal. So again, every year, 1 international student usually gets it. And if we invite those students for an interview, we'll certainly pay for all the expenses if they are a final candidate. So certainly could talk more about that later as well. The Honors College, this one is an experience-based cohort. And if you complete certain requirements, then by the end, you will actually get an honors diploma. And then on the other hand, the Prodeste Scholars Program, this one is based off of the major that you select at the time of application. And usually the professors will select the students who will be considered a Prodeste scholar. And there's usually an additional $1,000 to $2,000 scholarship that goes along with it as well. So different opportunities, not one program is better than the other. It's just different programs that will service different students. And then speaking of servicing students, we do have different resources available. So of course, every single institution in the US probably has an International Student and Scholar Services Office. Their job is to organize new student orientation, when students come in to do their visa checks. If they have issues with their I-20s or anything, they are the professionals that are here to help. And then we also have a career services center, because nowadays a lot of families are very interested in what happens after graduation. It is no longer recruitment where a student, get the student through the door at the front end. It is also about the back end as well. We want to make sure students are gaining the skills, and then they also have the support in obtaining a career afterwards. So That's the reason why a lot of emphasis has been placed upon the Career Services Center to really look at the outcomes for the students. And we also have a How Writing Center for any student who may need additional help with their essays or writing assignments. These are peer-led services that they could help the students kind of give them some tips and everything. So just a couple student resources that we offer. And then now totally switching gears again, let's talk a little bit about the application process. So right here, I do have the deadlines for fall semester as well as the spring semester. Traditionally, most of the students apply for the fall semester, and December 1 is the priority deadline for not only admission, but also scholarships as well. And so that was the reason why at the very beginning, I noted that students from Vietnam tend to apply by December 1. Even though the ultimate deadline is February 1, they usually hit that December 1 just because they are usually interested in applying for presidential fellows, scholarships, as well as priority consideration for admission. And it is a rolling admissions as well. So as soon as students submit all the required materials, we will conduct the review and then release the decision to the student. The way we release our decisions, it is actually through a portal. We'll send an email to the student letting them know that, hey, your decision is ready, and they could actually log in to check. And before I forget, I want to mention this point for Can Achieve, as an agency, whenever you are working with a student, please make sure that they list Can Achieve on the application, because that is the only way that Can Achieve could be paid for the students that they have recruited. So that's also very important as you are working with students. It is written in the contract where, if a student is working with Can Achieve, that they just have to make sure they put that on the application. So that's just the one important fact that I want to make sure I remind you of. And also, if I'm going through these slides really quickly, the information is also on our website. In fact, it's probably even more updated than what we have listed here, because right now is a time where we're still rolling out all the final new fall 2022 information. So some of the stuff like slightly changed, but the information is technically the same. In terms of the application checklist, so as you are working with students, first off, the application, they could either submit the common application or the Miami University International application. It doesn't matter whichever one they submit, but just know that the Miami University International application is actually shorter. But because most students are applying to other schools besides Miami, they usually go with the common app, and that is completely fine. And then once a student submits the application, then the next item to submit is the academic records. For example, definitely make sure to include grade 9 for Vietnam. It's usually to the student's benefit. And plus we needed the equivalent, even though we know high school in Vietnam is grades 10, 11, and 12. So make sure they also submit grade 9 as well. We do that also for, let's say, our applicants from China or applicants from Taiwan. We ask for that grade 9 as well, even though it's considered middle school. And then ACT, SAT test scores, they have always been optional, but traditionally Vietnamese students tend to submit those test scores. They score high enough that they usually do not even need to submit a TOEFL or IELTS. They still submit it anyways, which is fine. We'll still add it to their record, but usually it is high enough that their English proficiency is waived. Taiwan, on the other hand, I know sometimes their evidence-based reading and writing scores, if they do submit a SAT or an ACT, is usually a little bit lower than our required English proficiency. But then again, that's just a trend that I've noticed from the students. We'll consider them for conditional admission. And on the bottom, you could see for proof of English proficiency, if they want to submit a TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, those are the minimum scores for full admission. And also, if there's any situation where you are working with a student, let's say from who has a Taiwanese passport or a Vietnamese passport, but they are attending a U.S. high school, make sure they still submit a test score, even though, yes, if they have 3 years at a U.S. high school, we could waive the English proficiency, but that automatically places them in conditional admission. So still encourage those students to submit a test score just so we make sure we place them correctly. And then finally, the financial support form and passport, they could submit that afterwards. We use that to issue the I-20 for those students. And I talked a little bit already about the divisional consideration. The rest of the other majors, students could easily put down computer science, psychology, and it's a direct admission into those programs. The only caveat to that is just business and anything in the College of Creative Arts. And there's really no minimum GPA that we're looking for. We really utilize a holistic, comprehensive, and individualized review process. So we do look at everything. And at this point, I've reviewed so many applications from Vietnam and Taiwan that let the students know that it's really to their advantage. We try to bump it up a little bit, knowing that the curriculum is a little more challenging. So if students question that, just know we really try to evaluate the GPA to the student's advantage. So next, just to kind of talk more about the Emitted student profile, you can see from here in terms of the average test scores, how many students we've emitted from, or how many countries, and then the number of applications that we've received. And this was for fall 2019. Again, we probably need to update this for fall 2020. We're still waiting for the dust to settle and figure all that out. But this kind of gives you a sense in terms of the number of male to female students coming to Miami. I did mention this before in terms of the ACE program. This one is our conditional admission program where we will place them based off of their English proficiency score. This program is for students who are strong academically, but English proficiency probably just needs an additional boost. So usually you spend 1 semester in this program, and if they successfully complete it, then the following semester they're considered a fully admitted student. So great program in terms of bridging that proficiency gap. Again, no separate application will automatically consider the students for it. I'm going to skip over this because this is still showing the figure for fall 2021. For fall 2022, it might be slightly different. Just a number might be slightly higher, but I don't see it as any higher than maybe 58, 59-ish. But I'll update that later. We also have it in our current brochure. So this one's a little outdated, but again, it gives you a sense of how much it possibly costs to attend Miami University. Speaking of costs, we do offer scholarships. So when students apply, they're automatically considered for all the different scholarship opportunities. There's no separate application that students have to submit for the Merit Scholarship and the International Education Scholarship. Those two, again, are automatic. The Presidential Fellows Program and the You Are Welcome Here Scholarship, that has a separate application. So again, when you are working with your students, go ahead and have them fill out, the Presidential Fellows Program application and the You Are Welcome Here Scholarship. All these are stackable, so it just really helps the student obtain a bigger scholarship package. And in terms of merit scholarships, it is based off of a criteria of a GPA. So again, like I mentioned before, we do reevaluate the GPA. And if you search on our website, you pull up the grid in terms of what GPA will get you what scholarship. The lowest scholarship is about 1,500, and the highest is probably up to half tuition. So check that out. International Education Scholarship does not have a minimum GPA requirement or anything. It's just based off of the review of the application. So again, normally most students from Vietnam and Taiwan get both of the scholarships anyways. And make sure that the student meets English proficiency, because that is one requirement in order for us to award the student scholarship. So, and we also have a tuition promise program. So this basically means that throughout the 4 years, their tuition is locked in, and they do not have to worry about an increase in tuition. If they end up getting a scholarship, they won't lose its value, because it'll be the same scholarship paying for the same tuition. And we just want to offer transparency to the students, letting them know that, you know, this is what to expect every year. And then finally, this is just some contact information. Feel free to utilize it. We do have a email account as well too, along with WhatsApp and Zello. So if any students want to reach out to us through those apps, we're more than happy to answer those questions. So I'll stop sharing my screen and then take any questions that anybody might have. So let me just, okay. It is probably not allowing me to stop sharing. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions that I could answer? I certainly understand that was a lot of content for you know, a 1 hour presentation, and I really try to condense it as much as I can, knowing that you are working with different schools, you are working with a lot of students. So hopefully these are the quickest facts that I could offer to you to help you in your work with your students. So I'll pause right there and just let me know if you have anything that you want to ask. Okay, and I'll also look at the chat as well too. So I know Florence asked, could I ask more about the scholarship for bachelor's degrees? Yes, so those are the 4 scholarships that I just mentioned: the Emitted Scholarship, the International Student Scholarship, as well as the You Are Welcome Here and the Presidential Fellow Scholarship. It is also, let me find a link for you as well too, because we do have it online. That might be easier for you to look at while we are talking here. Just feel free to keep typing if you have any other questions. Okay. Florence, this one is for you. And you could certainly read more about the different scholarships that we have to offer. Grad programs. Yes, we do have grad programs, but currently the agreement right now is written for undergraduate students. Our graduate admission is handled by another department. And if you want me to connect you to our director for graduate recruitment, I could certainly do that. But I think what our current contract with Can Achieve is we're more interested in really working with undergraduate students. But again, I could certainly direct you to our graduate department if you have any students that are interested in Miami that are graduate students. So. And the next question is, can international students apply for both financial aid and scholarship? In our world, we technically call those the same things. I call it scholarships, but our financial aid office calls it financial aid. I think that's a little confusing for some of our students, because technically it's not financial aid, but it's gift aid. So in a way, they both mean the same thing. So, to sum it up, yes, we offer scholarships to international students. And keep in mind, depending on school, financial aid is usually reserved for U.S. citizens or permanent residents. So from an international student standpoint, I usually tend to just call them scholarships, if that makes any sense. So, and then let's see, any other questions? I think I answered everything already. I know I see a hand raise from Western Education. If you want to unmute and ask your question, you're more than welcome to. So, or you could type it whichever way you're more comfortable with. All right. Can you give the value of each scholarship? Yes. Florence, that link that I sent you will give you more information on the values. So if you click through it, you'll be able to see, like, for example, the merit scholarships for fall 2022. It'll show you like the different GPA and the different amounts. And then also I know as you're advising students, a lot of times they'll ask like, oh, how much will I qualify for at Miami? Like, the best you could do is really provide them this general information, because nothing is set in stone until we actually review the application. So it is a little hard to like give an estimate to a student, but you could show them like this chart, and you could also show them for example, if you click on international education scholarship, it'll say $2,000 to $16,000 a year. And then you click on the university merit scholarship, and you can see the ranges, like as low as up to 6,000, and then as high to, but that's Ohio residents, sorry, up to 12,000, and then to 34,000. So I would be careful when working with students and giving exact amounts, because we don't want to promise a student how much they will get, but you could show them the data, like historically, if you have this GPA, you might get this. And, historically, international education scholarship ranges from $2,000 to $16,000 a year. So hopefully that's helpful. But let me know if you have more questions about that.
So hi, Mindy. I
Yes.
want to ask about the date for the application for each intakes. Like when will the spring open and the deadline for spring, and also with the fall intake. So we can have the schedules into a
Yeah,
range.
sure. Actually, let me go ahead and find a link for you, but I'll say it at the same time too. Traditionally, let's start with fall semester. For fall semester, the deadline, priority deadline, I think that's a key word there, is December 1. As long as they submit by December 1, they will be considered for priority scholarship, priority admission, priority for honors programs. So that's certainly an important date to remember for the fall semester. And very last minute students, I tend to see very few Vietnamese students apply after December 1. They usually try to hit that deadline, but February 1 is the last deadline that they could submit an application for the fall semester. So technically, yes, there's 2 deadlines, but one deadline is a super important one. February 1, we usually get the stragglers who are like, oh, I'm suddenly interested in Miami University. We'll catch those students. I think students from Taiwan tend to apply later, is what I've seen in the past. But, colleagues from Taiwan, if you are able to push those students to apply early, it's really to their advantage. But I certainly understand, students make their decision later too. And, there's a lot of components going on. For spring semester, a deadline for spring is December 1. So I know it's kind of weird, but December 1 for spring semester, because it's usually a very tight time frame, especially if they want to come in January. If you have any stragglers or they need extra time because, you know, it's a holiday and everything, let me know. I'm more than willing to work with those students. But for any students who hold a Vietnamese passport, usually if they apply in the spring, they are coming from the community colleges. We get a lot from the Washington area that students transfer from. So more transfer students, if anything, for the spring semester, and a lot more first year students for the fall semester, if that's helpful. Let me see if I can find that link for you. Any other questions? All right, and this link right here is the deadline. I just realized I've been sending it to one person only, so let me try again. Okay. This is a deadline right here, and then, okay, I think someone found the scholarship information as well too, so I think we're good there. Any other questions that I could answer for you? And if you think of questions later, just email me. But you know, if you want something in a longer explanation or something like that, I could do that as well too. I know sometimes it's hard to come up with questions right after a long presentation as you're processing all the material. Something will probably come up later.
Yeah. So I also want to ask about the Vietnamese students is studying at Miami University right now. So is there any like a community or the student council or something?
Yeah, like for this year, the students, I think what really helps is because we always try to create a WhatsApp group right after they confirm. So the students really get to know each other. I know of like several students asking each other about like, hey, do you want to room together, or, you know, when are you arriving? And they ask each other questions about, you know, what do they need for the final high school transcript requirement and everything. So we try on our end to really help them bond and really engage them. But if anything, the students are wonderful. They are really responsive. Like every time I send an email to them asking like, hey, can you let me know your visa status? You know, have you bought your flight yet? And they usually come back to you quicker than any other student from like, you know, other countries. So that, if anything, like the professors, but they really adore the students from Vietnam because they are very engaged and they're doers for sure. They never hesitate to ask a question. I know, like if I look in my inbox right now, there's like several emails from my students from Vietnam who have a lot of detailed questions. So I'm not concerned about them from that point because I know like if they need something, they will ask. So I think, you know, it's fortunate that Miami is, you know, attracting students of, you know, this type of high caliber. And colleagues from Taiwan, you know, we certainly have great students from there as well too. But I know like we have a wide range of colleagues also from Vietnam today. So I just want to touch upon that as well too. But let me know if you also have any questions about Taiwanese students. Be more than happy to answer those. And then the ACE program, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a really good question in terms of the tuition for the ACE program. So first off, any student who is admitted to the ACE program will not qualify for scholarships. And yes, the ACE program tuition is pretty much half of what a full admission student pays, but it's only for one semester because they have to complete the program in at least, they have at most 2 semesters to complete it, but I would say over like 93% of the students completed within the first semester. Once they complete the first semester and they move on to full admission for the second semester, then their tuition will switch back up to the regular tuition rate. So that's one thing, you know, I'm glad you asked that, you know, students should know that even though it's a reduced tuition, it's only for one semester, and you do not qualify for scholarships. And even if you finish a program, at that time, you're considered a current student. So we can't, review you again for scholarships. So, maybe, when you're working with students, to definitely, let them know that as well. Any other questions?
Hi, Minnie.
Yes.
Peter speaking. Yeah, I have a
Hi,
question
Peter.
regarding to the deadline. 1st December is the deadline for application and scholarship for full intakes as well. Right?
What was the last part?
Yeah, 1st December is the deadline for application and scholarship for the phone as well.
Yes, yes, it is a priority deadline for admission as well as scholarships. So that is correct.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yep, no
And
problem.
it's also the deadline for the spring intakes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird that it falls on December 1. Just because and just to kind of give you a little background why that for spring semester it's December 1 is because staff usually go on vacation the last 2 weeks of December, and we try to get students reviewed and get their I-20s out as soon as possible, because by the time we come back from vacation, it is like almost, second week of January, and they have to be here by the 3rd week of January. So it's a very tight time frame to get those students in for spring semester, and hence, it's a December 1 deadline. But the earlier the student could get everything in, the faster we could get them a decision, get them their I-20, get them everything they need before everyone shuts down for the Christmas holiday. Another question here is, I think Florence asked, so it means that students just have first term of last year of high school can apply for scholarship. Okay, for students in grade 12, and that's the reason why we request that they submit grade 9 as well, because we want to see at least 3 years of grades. So it'll be 9, 10, 11. They're applying during year 12. Sometimes we don't even see any year 12 scores at all, and that's completely fine. Sometimes they'll have their midterm, they'll submit that, and that is fine too. But at the end, we'll ask for a final high school transcript anyways. So that's why it's really important that students submit 3 years of grades, including grade 9, knowing that we won't have grade 12. So if they have it, great. If they don't, it's not the end of the world. Anything else? Nope, no problem. All right. Well, if we don't have anything else, I don't want to keep all of you that much longer. I know you guys, have a full day ahead of you. So, but yes, I'll let the host speak if she wants to. Or no? Okay. One more question. I'll answer this question as well before we jump off. If we apply via agency, will our students get the same opportunities? Yes. It doesn't matter if you're applying through an agency. It doesn't matter if the student is applying by themselves. Everyone has equal opportunity. You will still get the same opportunity for scholarship. So nothing less. So you can rest assured that we treat everyone equally. All right, good. Great. Well, I just want to say thank you once again for sitting through this 1 hour with me. It's certainly a pleasure to see such a good show. And I really appreciate all of you and what you do for students. Again, like I mentioned before, if you need anything, please email me. I'll just type my email in here really quickly in case you didn't get it from the presentation. And then just let me know how I can help. But just want to say thank you again, and I don't know if Tom or anybody has some last minute words before we log off.
Okay, thank you so much, Mindy.
No problem.
So have a
Thank you
good
so
night.
much, and please don't forget to send me the PPT.
I will try to, Tom. I think Julia asked me last time, but the file was so big I couldn't send it. We actually have a counselor info sheet that I would probably share with you. That's a one pager. It's like a cheat sheet. So your advisors or agents could just look at it and like it's quick information for them. So the PPT just has a lot of like graphics that takes up a lot of space, so we try to send a condensed version. So I'll try to get the updated version to you. Right now, it's still with our communications team. They're updating it, but once it's available, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. So
No
bye.
problem. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
All right, thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.